If you've been putting off the purchase of a new Mac, it is time to reconsider because in this video, I am going to tell you why you need a new Mac in 2023 and how it's going to change everything about your current workflow. But no matter what Mac you buy, or even if you don't listen to me and you plan on keeping your old Mac, you need to keep it optimized and running like new with trendmicro's Cleaner One Pro. And if you're buying a new Mac, it is very tempting to save money, right? Like you want to get the lower storage options or the lower memory options, but low storage can cause a big headache. Well, if you are going for lower storage, Cleaner One Pro can actually help you out, and it helped me out on my base model MacBook Air with its one-click scanning feature, which quickly scanned my Mac for unnecessary files, duplicate files, system junk, or large files that were taking up big parts of my Mac storage. And I find it very easy to use with a visualized map so you know exactly what files you are deleting and a visual representation of how much space those files are taking up on your hard drive. Cleaner One Pro just makes it so easy to delete and manage those files that it helped me save on space with my lower storage MacBook Air. Cleaner One Pro also includes a great tool to manage your system resources with a built-in Mac toolbar monitor, which tells me my Mac's current CPU usage, my network usage, and my memory usage. And you can even free up active memory with just one click, letting you maximize your current memory, which is super helpful on machines with the 8 GB of base memory. You can check out Cleaner One Pro for yourself by clicking the link in the description below. And thank you to trendmicro, not only for helping me keep my Mac running like new, but also for sponsoring this video. Okay, now there's not just one reason to get an Apple Silicon Mac in 2023. There are a bunch of reasons and a bunch of different categories of why you should get an Apple Silicon Mac in 2023. So I've made it very easy to follow along in this video by adding chapters so you can follow along very easily and skip to the categories you want to watch at. But let's start with the first reason, and this should be on the top of everyone's list, and that is performance. If you're still on an old Intel Mac, especially a consumer computer like a MacBook Air or an iMac, you are going to see a massive performance increase over older Intel machines. I can't stress enough how much an M1 or an M2 Mac is going to make your machine feel like it came from another planet. Everything on your Mac will instantly feel faster, from simple things like starting up the machine to opening apps and just the general responsiveness of the operating system. It even takes entry-level machines like the MacBook Air and turns them into performance machines that are able to edit 4K videos smoothly and export them in speeds unheard of on older Intel machines. The performance jump is so big compared to Intel Macs that you could take an older Intel MacBook Pro and there's a good chance that it will be slower than Apple's cheapest Apple Silicon laptop, the MacBook Air. So if you're still on Intel, you are missing out on some major speed increases, not only for just general use cases of the computer, but for professional tasks as well. Of course, power is just one side of the Apple Silicon story, and another reason to pick up an Apple Silicon Mac is just how efficient the chips have become, especially if you are a laptop user, which most Mac users are. And these chips have led to extraordinary benefits in a few areas because of their increase in efficiency. The top benefit you'll see with this is battery life. Those power-hungry Intel chips simply ate through your MacBook's battery life, and that's just not the case on Apple Silicon Macs. You can go from battery life ratings from older Intel machines from around 9 to 12 hours of usage to 17 to 21 hours of usage. Yes, you didn't mishear me. If you're moving from an older Intel MacBook to an Apple Silicon MacBook, expect to get, in some cases, around double the battery life of your older Intel Mac. This means that you can use your laptop at school, at work, at the coffee shop, or at the airport and not be in constant fear that you won't get a seat next to an outlet that you need to charge it. Like, you can leave the charger at home if you're going on a day trip. The battery is so good on Apple Silicon Macs that depending on how often you use them and what you use them for, you could even expect the battery to last you from a few days to an entire week with light to moderate usage. Now, this efficiency goes into another area on why you should buy an Apple Silicon Mac, and that is thermal performance. Because these new chips are so power efficient compared to the Intel chips, it not only leads to less energy usage for every single Mac, but also means that these chips produce much less heat than their Intel counterparts. Because these chips produce less heat, this also leads to benefits in areas you might not expect. The biggest is if you have a noisy Mac right now where the fans are constantly loud and spinning. Well, you can expect that to pretty much be a thing of the past on Apple Silicon Macs. For some Macs like the MacBook Air, they don't even have a fan inside of them, meaning they will operate like your phone or iPad, which means they'll be 100% quiet no matter what you do on it. For other Macs like the M2 MacBook Pro or the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro, even though they do have fans inside of the laptops, they require you to really push these Macs for the fans to even turn on. And even if they do turn on, they probably will be pretty quiet, or even if there is audible noise, it will probably last like a few seconds or like a minute rather than the prolonged sound that plays whenever you turn on your old Intel Mac. And I've been there. I've been on the Intel iMac, and it had like a big graphics card in it, and that thing was always spinning, or the old 2016 MacBook Pros. Those things just got noisy in almost every situation. Like you turn on, you open up Chrome, and all of a sudden your fan's just whirling. It's not gonna happen on the Apple Silicon Mac. This can really be the same for desktop Macs too, like the 24-inch iMac. It's very quiet with its fan on, and even the M1 Mac Mini is pretty much whisper quiet. So more efficient chips and less fan noise also means that these Macs produce less heat compared to an Intel Mac. So if you're using your laptop on your lap, don't expect it to get overly hot and uncomfortable. And in most of my use cases, my Macs have barely gotten warm during use, let alone hot. Another reason to grab an Apple Silicon Mac is new form factors. Yes, we have seen quite a revision in the Mac lineup since Apple released their first M1 Macs. So you now have new slim and streamlined laptops like the new M2 MacBook Air, or impossibly thin desktops like the M1 iMac. You also have revamped professional laptops with the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro with edge-to-edge screens and more ports than the 2016 era of MacBook Pros. And you also get new but smaller powerhouse desktop form factors like the Mac Studio, which finally realizes the promise of computers like the G4 Cube and the 2013 Mac Pro, a smaller professional Mac that doesn't take up much space on your desk, but still has plenty of ports for expansion and doesn't compromise on performance. The Macs released since the initial M1 Macs have come a long way, and now in 2023, there's practically an Apple Silicon Mac for almost anyone. Another reason you need a new M1 or M2 Mac in 2023 is because of the exclusive software updates that Apple is pushing out to these Macs. Yes, it's true. Even though Apple is still supporting older Intel Macs with versions of macOS Monterey and now macOS Ventura, these Intel Mac updates are much less substantial than their Apple Silicon counterparts, with exclusive updates like portrait mode in FaceTime, more interactive maps, object capture, natural text-to-speech with Siri, on-device dictation, live captions with FaceTime, and using an M1 or M2 12.9-inch iPad Pro as an external reference display. All these exclusive updates only stand to grow larger as Apple continues to release new macOS versions over the years. Furthermore, if you're on an older Mac, you may have had your support for macOS dropped recently, and maybe faster than you were expecting, with only Macs from 2017 and newer being supported on the latest version of macOS Ventura. All right, the final reason why you need to get a new M1 or M2 Mac in 2023 is because of value. This is probably the single biggest reason to get a new Mac because of all the factors we mentioned before. And when you combine the benefits of Apple Silicon, this has made Apple's entry-level Macs like the Mac Mini and the MacBook Air and the iMac from expensive, underperforming computers to relatively inexpensive powerhouses overnight. These Macs now represent tremendous values in the lineup, with computers like the $699 Mac Mini becoming workhorses that are capable of professional level tasks. What does this mean for you? Well, if you are the type of user on an Intel Mac that would spend more money configuring your Mac to a higher end spec with a faster processor, or something like the Intel Mac Mini or MacBook Air maybe didn't provide enough power for you, so maybe you upgrade it to a higher end computer like a MacBook Pro. Well, now these entry-level computers perform so well that most people will be completely fine using the base level models of Apple's cheapest computers, and for general performance and even more intermediate tasks, they will perform the same or very similar to even the higher end models like the MacBook Pro. This is because they're all built on the same Apple Silicon architecture. So if you buy an M1 MacBook Air or an M1 Max MacBook Pro, you'll have the same single core performance between both Macs. This means that most users don't need to spend more money to upgrade to these higher end Macs anymore, especially if they don't use professional programs that can utilize higher multi-core or higher GPU performance. If that sounds like you, and you were someone that used to buy a higher spec Intel Mac for speedier performance, it's likely that you won't need to be doing that anymore if you buy an Apple Silicon Mac. And the cheaper entry-level Macs will not only be fast enough for your daily tasks, but they will be much faster than your previous Intel Macs, even if they were higher-end versions. The best thing I can say about these new Apple Silicon Macs is, in the few times I've picked up and used an Intel Mac since the launch of these M1 Macs, it always felt like a pain or a slog, to the point where the Macs felt like they were built from another planet with alien technology. These Apple Silicon Macs are just much better than the older Intel Macs. It is a night and day difference, which is why if you aren't using an Apple Silicon Mac in 2023, I think you need to buy one. All right, everyone, but that is why I think you need an Apple Silicon Mac in 2023. Please let me know in the comments below, do you agree with me that these new Macs are just much better than their Intel counterparts and that you need to upgrade to one? And if you haven't made the jump to an Apple Silicon Mac yet, I want to know why. Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to leave me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.